So I've been waiting for this watch for just over 3 weeks and it has finally arrived. I plan to do a fairly in-depth review on this model, breaking it up into 3 segments. If you've followed my channel before, you know that for some of my models I like to review in 3 parts. This being the initial impressions review, I will do a design review and a closing thoughts cover. So this initial impressions will be quite mild. It's not going to have too many details to it. I'll run through some of the basics and get through it that way, nice and abbreviated. As far as I know, the brand, Parnis, has been around since the early 2000s. They've developed quite a high reputation of being a pretty good replica manufacturer. And I think one of the key details that I like about them is that they produce sterile dial watches, which is what this is. So this is the sterile GMT Batman model, the GMT 2 super case style Batman. And as of right now, early 2018, this is the most sought after, or should I say one of, in contrast to the ceramic Daytona, this is the most sought after Rolex sports watch on the market for a couple of reasons. And I think the best one that I can say in absolute confidence is that the colors, the layout is superb. Rolex really knocked it out the park with this model. The fact that it is blue and black in color means that it is not brash and aggressive. It is very understated, it's very subtle. It can be used as an everyday piece. It can be the only Rolex you ever own because it has everything you would ever need. So the reasons why I ordered this watch was because it has a super case. It has a GMT function and it has a ceramic bezel. 3 things that the Jeanneau Ocean Rover does not have, which I plan to do a very interesting comparison between the two at a later stage. So, initial impressions. I can tell you the first thing that I felt when I opened the box and got this out was, this is not 40mm in size. Instead of inspecting the watch like I usually would, I went over to the table, got a vernier caliper and a ruler and measured it from edge to edge in the bezel, and it measured to be 40.1mm. The super case really is what they say. It is super, and it's always been a contention point or a contentious point between people who enjoy Rolex models, the modern and the old models, because it is a huge departure from the initial models. And I've gained a much greater appreciation for the vintage style cases, which I'll get into at a later stage. But all in all, this is a superb model for the sake of it. And my feeling is that I can wear this around. If I'm asked what it is, I'll say it's a sterile dial GMT. And I'm really experimenting to see whether these super cases are in fact good or if they're just there for the sake of being there. So let's get through the watch review. I've been talking a bit too much about everything else. What I can say first off the bat is that the ceramic bezel is top notch. The ceramic bezel is beautifully glossed. There's an excellent contrast between the blue and black. You can see the divide by the 18 and by the 6. In certain lights, like right now, the blue and black is quite prominent, but if I just had to cover up some of the light, you notice that the blue fades away. It is a very appealing thing, and I think that's why a lot of people like it so much, is because it is interesting enough that it can be looked at all day, every day, and not become something that is boring to the eye. Because as much as we love our standard black Submariner style models, a black bezel, black face, it is very, very simple. And this added little piece of blue really adds another dynamic that makes it a lot more interesting. And the blue GMT hand, let's not forget, is also very cool. It's almost like you're wearing 2 watches in one, if you think about it. So if you know anything about the GMT, you understand that you can set the GMT hand separately. I'll go through, in the design review, I'll go through setting the watch a little bit more in detail. But the whole idea is that you use this bezel, which is a 24-hour scale. You set your GMT hand to whatever time zone. It's currently 5, or should I say 7 minutes past 12 in the UK. And it is 7 minutes past 2 in the time zone that I've set for, just a little bit further up the road. So it's really nice. Having a 24-hour bezel, I think this will be covered more in the design review, but it is really, really cool. And I can honestly say a GMT function is a really nice function to own. So running through the watch again, I've mentioned that the bezel diameter is 40.1 millimeters, so it is counted as a 40mm watch. The end length, so the bracelet lug width is 20 millimeters, and from lug to lug, I'd say horizontally, it measures to be between 27 and 28 millimeters. The entire lug length is just under 50 millimeters, and it really is a super case, super in size, super in everything else. Just before I go down to the bracelet, let me just cover the details on the super case. It is extremely well finished. The polishing is excellent, edges are nice and sharp. The brushing is also very matte and great. You can see a few mild swirls. I don't think the brushing is as high quality as you can imagine. It's not superb, but it is very good. It serves its purpose. The excuse all the fingerprints. I'm trying here, guys. Polishing is excellent. They even polished the crown, which is another feature which is very good. The crown is well positioned. So the case in itself is excellent, and it also continues. If I turn it around and we have a look at the back, the actual placement of the bracelet in the case is superb. Very, very well placed. It's not skew or recessed very badly. The screw down back is also well positioned. So all in all, the case has been extremely well executed. Now, before I go on, I should actually continue by rotating the bezel. So this bezel is not a GMT style bezel. As far as I know, the 2014 models, I watched a few videos and noticed that the 2014 models actually came with 24 click bezels, meaning that for a GMT function, you only need to go between the hour and in between. You're basically trying to line up these pips with the GMT hand. That's the purpose of it. So with a 24-hour bezel, there's like a chunk between each rotation, where here it is actually just a standard dive style bezel. It's a unidirectional bezel, which is quite a shame. And as far as I've worked out, it is in fact a 90 click bezel. Now I could be wrong. I did tick it individually and count the ticks, but at the same time, certain gaps between numerals. This is a 7 click gap, 5, 6, 7. So it's 7, and then sometimes it's 6, sometimes it's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So just between those 2 points, you notice that it's 7 and then it's 8 in the lower 2. So I don't understand how that works out, but it does equate to 90 clicks as far as I've calculated so far. I've only worn this watch for a day, so I can't be that accurate. What I can tell you is that the bezel is very responsive. It's got a very nice click. It's not a cheap sounding click. It's very assuring. It does have a little bit of back play, but it's not a deal breaker, because at the same time, this is not a dive bezel. What I like about these GMT bezels is that you can set it, like right now I'm going to set it for New York time, which is about here. You set it and you forget about it, and then you carry on with the rest of your day. So as of right now, it is almost 7 in the morning in New York, and I think it's a great feature because you're able to just manipulate it to where you want it to be. So as of right now, it's 11 minutes past 12 in the UK, it's 11 minutes past 7 in New York, and then if I rotate it back to the top, it is 11 minutes past 2 in Cape Town or Johannesburg in South Africa. So superb watch for that reason. The movement is great. The sapphire crystal is also solid, and I should also cover the Cyclops quickly. Cyclops could be a little bit better improved. It might look a little bit lopsided in this video, but it is in fact flush. I don't know why it looks so manipulated and skew. It's very reflective, as I'm sure you can see. It does pick up the light quite heavily, but in saying that, it does magnify the date extremely well, which some people have. And also, this is another thing that the Janot doesn't have, being a no-date model. So these two watches in tandem are going to be quite interesting to compare. So let's go down to the next part of the review, should I say, the bracelet. Now, this is by no means a bad bracelet, and the way I can tell you this is when you look at the end links of any... Oh my god, this is going to take a long time. My battery's just said it's also low power mode, so I'm going to try and speed this up for you. The way to tell a good bracelet from a bad one is by looking at its end links. If the end links are sharp and are not rounded, like in this case, very sharp, then you are dealing with a very high quality bracelet. So this model is by no means bad quality with regards to its bracelet. What I can tell you is that I've been spoiled for choice owning the Jeanneau, because I can now compare everything against it, and it does not live up to the Jeanneau level reputation of bracelets, sadly. It is your standard oyster style bracelet, but as you can see, in a few places it hasn't been fitted extremely well. It does wiggle a little bit, and it does have a glide lock style clasp. Let me get into that before this video ends. I think I've been going on a bit too long. So it has your flip lock extension. The width between the flip lock is not very well executed. The actual clasp itself is very well done. The polishing is very good on the inside, but the glide lock function is not the same as the Jeanneau version. What they've done is they've taken a half link extension, easy link extension, and basically hybridized it to fit into the glide lock frame. So it works very well for that purpose. It can be a bit hard to manipulate back into its slot, which I'll try and do now. It takes a little bit of pressure. Let me just try and manipulate it. There we go. It does work very well. So I would say it's sort of a hybrid between easy link and glide lock. I'll show you what a real glide lock looks like in a later video. But as of right now, I'm just going to put it on the wrist and show you how it wears before the video ends. So it has a very solid action, and what I can tell you is that I have a 7¼ inch wrist, and this thing looks extremely large. Well, I should say it fits the wrist well, but it looks extremely large on the wrist. When I compare it to the Jeanneau model, I can honestly say that this really does dwarf it in size. And I think I'll save my reservations and comments about the super case versus the vintage case in a later video. But as of right now, I'm extremely impressed with the overall watch. The bracelet wears kind of like a vintage oyster and a modern oyster at the same time, because it's light enough to be worn as a vintage style piece, but it fits like a modern style piece. So that's pretty good. And it's also extremely comfortable. I'm able to flex the wrist a lot. There's no hang up. There's no issues with that at all. One thing that you might be noticing, and you might call me out on, which I should cover, is that this bracelet is an oyster style bracelet. It does have a dive style clasp, which means that it does not come with a polished center link, which is something I hope to remedy before the next video. I plan on polishing the center link today to give it the actual texture that it came with, and how I'm going to do that, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to take it to the polishing wheel. I might just use very high density sandpaper, like 7000, and polish it up. So all in all, I'm extremely impressed with this watch, and you should be too. For the price I paid, which is roughly £60, I have an excellent example, a very well functioning watch. Talking about a watch, I should talk about timekeeping. This thing is extremely accurate. I think it uses your standard base Seagull ST6 movement. Could be a little bit different with a GMT hand, so I might be wrong. But it keeps excellent time. It keeps up my quartz models. Very similar to my Nautilus model that I own. It is superb so far, and the GMT hand is also very responsive. Of course, it doesn't tick like an hour hand, so it does jump halfway between every hour, and it works perfectly for that reason. So if you're wondering about picking one of these up, I can honestly say, do it. The first thing you should do before you buy the watch is to check and see what kind of clasp it comes with, because I recommend this kind of clasp over the standard oyster style clasp that some others come with. You want that extra little bit of security with that, that extra lock on the top. All in all, excellent piece. I plan to do a follow-up review, or should I say a design review and a closing thoughts review before I then go on to reviewing it in contrast with the Jeanneau Ocean Rover. And then you'll see where the Jeanneau gets its good name from, I think, once you've watched that review. So thank you very much for watching, and as I'm filming this video, I've just ticked 200 subscribers, I think, and I must say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone who's started following this channel. I really appreciate your support. It's so nice having people share the same hobby and passion as you, and the fact that we can understand each other at the same level. I think it's great. So thank you very much. I plan to see you in the next one very soon, and have a good day.